For all your legal matters including immigration, bankruptcy and credit card problems, divorce and family law, landlord and tenant matters, criminal and personal injury, call Gahey & Associates for a free initial personal consultation at 718-263-5999.
जब कोई बात बिगड़ जाए, जब कोई मुश्किल आ जाए, तब हम आपका साथ देंगे. Anytime you have a complex immigration matter, remember, मैं हूं ना. Hello viewers, this is Attorney Gahey, and today we are going to discuss about a very important topic which affects a lot of corporations in the United States as well as companies abroad. Yes, so today we are going to discuss about the L visa category. The L visa category generally applies to intra-company transfers, which means if you have an employee who's working for you in a company outside the United States, which means in a company abroad, and if you want that particular foreign employee to come in and work for you in the United States, that's where the L1 visa sets in. So now let's start with the two different types of L1s. So one of them is known as L1A, which is known as the category for managers and executives. And the second category is known as the L1B, which applies to people who have specialized knowledge in the profession as well as in terms of the business aspects of the company. Means an L1B employee is a person who has specialized knowledge about the products and services of the company. So now we're going to start one after another so that our viewers do not get confused. So let's start with the L1A category, commonly referred to as the managerial occupation or the managerial capacity employee under the L1A visa program, or the executive visa category under the L1A visa program. Now let's take an example that you own a company abroad, all right? And you're watching the show right now. You are in Germany, or you're in India, or you're in Trinidad, you're in Guyana, or you're in the UK, and you have decided to start a branch office in the United States. What do you need to know? So we're going to just try to make it as simple as possible for our viewers, especially people who are abroad and who want to start a company here. And remember, it's very important for you to have a decent sized company. If you're a one-man show and if your income is not very high, don't even bother going any further, especially because there are some people who just want to come to the United States and somehow they're desperate and they'll do anything to get here. Unfortunately, if this happens in your case, this may be affecting you very badly. So it's better for you not to consider this category if you are not a decent sized company. I mean, this is my analysis of a decent sized company. I mean, I'm not talking about the law. Means you should really have a fantastic business goal. Your company should be having a decent presence in your home country, which means that you should have been in business for some time at least. I mean, I would say that you should be in business for at least 5 or 10 years, or unless and until your company has achieved major landmarks. For example, in 3 years, your company has grown, and those are the factors you need to consider. The gist of it is that, remember, if your intention is to grow in the United States, and if your intention is to basically make a presence in the United States, which is really, really going to make a difference, then consider the L1A. Now, what does an L1A manager do? Now, for example, you're sitting in the UK and looking at my video, or you're sitting in New York and you're looking at my video, or if you are anywhere, in this country, if you're in LA watching my video, the question here is, the very first thing is that, you need to understand that you are a manager of a company. That's the L1A. You have to be a manager. And you should have been employed by the company, by the foreign company, for at least a period of 1 year, which means you should have worked for the company for at least 1 year. You need to prove by means of documentation, for example, your tax returns, your W-2s, and the second part you need to prove is that you're a manager. Now, what's the difference between a manager and a non-manager? A manager is a person who manages the organization, performs an essential function in the organization. For example, you hire employees, you fire employees, you analyze, design, develop programs for the company. In a sense, you handle major aspects of the company's products and services, which means that you don't have specialized knowledge, but you're above that in a sense that what you're doing over here as a L1A manager is you are managing the company. Now, that's the first requirement. Now, after you meet the manager's requirement, which means, as I said, you perform an essential function in the company, you supervise employees. I mean, there are many employees who are reporting to you, so that can qualify as a manager. Let's take a simple example of who's a manager. Now, you have a supervisor working under you, and under the supervisor, you have a clerical employee, and under the clerical employee, you have someone else working under you. So that we can show through a chain of events that you are managing at least an essential component of your company. For example, you're dealing with millions of dollars for the company abroad, which means that you're doing all the major transactions for the company. That may qualify you as a manager. Now, who's a clerk? A clerk is a person who's working in the company, just basically doing regular jobs, which means mainly a lot of blue-collar jobs or clerical jobs. So generally, the good news about an L1A manager is that immigration does not look at your qualifications. Even if you don't have an MBA, even if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you can still qualify as a manager because you're an entrepreneur. You've proven yourself to be an entrepreneur, and that is proved by means of your resume, your background, and for example, they also review some evidence. For example, you have invoices showing, or you have records of meetings showing that you were dealing with millions of dollars in business. That is good enough for you to qualify as a manager, to show that you are someone special. That's Mr. Gehi's word. That's Gehi's way of looking at a manager. Now, after that, what happens is that now you have shown that you're a manager and you are sitting in the UK right now, and you're saying that you want to come to America and you want to set up the branch office. Now, I have set up a lot of branch offices for some mid-sized and major companies. Now, what do I do? The first thing is that foreign employee or the manager shoots me an email from the foreign country, and my email will be showing up shortly. And thanks to Will, who has been excellent in helping me with the videos, so I'm going to request Will see that you shoot my email right there. So now, after Will shoots my email, now what are you going to do? You're going to shoot me an email. Mr. Gehi, I'm a decent sized company. Please do not contact me. If you're very small, as I said, you'll be wasting your time, your money, and your effort. If you're a mid-sized company, I don't mind 15, 20 employees. And if you really are genuine about setting up an office, shoot me an email. Now, after I get the email, what do? I'll have a meeting with you, or somehow we can, communicate. And then if you come to New York, and after you visit New York, we start talking together. Because generally, if you want to set up your branch office, what do we do for you? We can first basically ask you to start looking for a premises, which means an office space. And after you look for an office space, we need to review the lease, we need to look at the terms and conditions of the lease, and we need to review the nature of your business. And plus, above all, I'm going to ask you that exactly if you're a manager, it'll be great if you could live in the United States and develop the company. And then what happens is that if we go through the basic procedures, for example, forming the company, which we do for you, reviewing the lease, that's what again I do for you. Then after that, we submit the petition to immigration. Now, what does immigration look at? Immigration looks at the bona fide nature of the venture. A bona fide nature means you should have a real, genuine, and a fantastic purpose of establishing a company. Now, let's take a simple example. You're sitting in the UK and you have a consulting company over there, and you're having software-related services, or you have a huge manpower company in your home country. You're coming to the United States because you want to set up an office over here so that your people can come and they can work in projects in the United States, or you can also hire local talent and grow the company. Now, you're coming over here, you set up the branch office, and we help you right from the lease. Then after that, we can also reviewing the lease. Of course, we look at the lease very carefully. Then we also look at the rest of the documents, your qualifications, and then we look at whether you've been a manager. We look at the groundwork very closely. And after the groundwork is properly done, then we submit the petition to immigration. And what does immigration look at? The most common thing which immigration looks at is whether you are actually a manager. And secondly, they're going to look at the nature of the business. For example, recently we did an L1 for a shipping company, a seafood manufacturer. So the very first thing they asked him that, where is your warehouse? Have you leased any space from a warehouse? So we were able to document that our client had basically a lease from a warehouse. Then they looked at his qualification. They looked at how many years he was working for the company. And the biggest question was that, are you really a manager? Prove it to me that you're a manager. And we were able to justify that he was a manager. And after we were able to justify he was a manager, great news. L1 visa is approved. Now, what happened after that? So we are talking about the L1A managers. I'm talking to you folks, and I'm making life as easy as possible here. Now, after this particular company started the business about the seafood manufacturer, they grew the business in the United States. What they did is that the incomes were very high. They showed that they were doing very well, which means in the tune your gross income was around, for example in your software business, if your gross income is around $4 or $5 million, and you employed around 10 or 15 employees here, and they're all happily working under you. This means you are a successful entrepreneur in the United States. Now you are an L1A manager. Now the good news for you is that after immigration fails, now you're done with this fantastic project, and now after that we can even apply for your green card under the EB1 category. The good news is that you don't need a labor certification. You're a manager, you proved yourself, and you came here, and we were holding your hands until the entire process, and now you're a successful entrepreneur. And at this particular point of time, then we apply for your green card. And the good news is you don't have to undergo the tedious labor certification process. You just can directly apply for your green card. And if you are a manager and if you're showing progress, of course, you'll get your green card in the United States. Remember, the L1A visa category is meant for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs like you who are watching this show today. Entrepreneurs like you who actually want to make it big and who have already made it big in the home country. As I said, that if you have made it big in the home country, we can help you to make it big in America. Remember, there is no substitute for experience. Experience is a must when you're dealing with an L1 attorney, especially because there are a lot of questions that are asked. And in my case, I've also helped companies who have been unable to meet the standards. And I'm a trial lawyer, so I understand the intricacies of the L1 process very well, and I've done a lot of these L1 visas. Now, after the L1 gets successful, the good news is that your wife and your children can come with you. And the good news is that your spouse can be on an L2 visa, which means, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say wife. Your spouse and your children can be on an L2 visa. Now, which means that your wife or your husband can get an L2, which means she can also work after the employment authorization document is approved by immigration. Fantastic. So your wife or your husband can also work as a dependent. And your children under 21 can also come with you to the United States. I think this is a fantastic category. And who should actually consider this category very closely? People who should consider this category very closely are people who have companies abroad. You have a company abroad right now. And example, you have an import-export company. You have 15 people working. As I said, I'm going to repeat this. Shoot me an email. Come in and see me. And we'd love to basically go through everything with you together. And you're very well established in the seafood business. You're very well established in the computer and the IT business. You're very well established in any other business, manufacturing business, or in any other kind of business, and in a staffing business, any kind of business. If you think you have the vision, and if you think that America is your next destination, we can help you to make your dreams come true. As I said, I'm going to repeat this. It will not be worth your time if you have a very small company where you have 2 or 3 people working, and if your gross income is not very high. See that exactly, analyze yourself objectively, and make sure that exactly, yes, and your heart will tell you, your gut feeling will tell you that I have done well in my country and I can prove it by means of my tax returns. Because the first thing which the consulate office is going to see is how well your foreign company is doing before they're going to grant you the L visa. If you're going to show losses in your company and then if you're going to apply for the L visa, no way you're going to qualify, because it may have an impact. It may not have a direct impact under the law, but it may have an indirect impact on the officer, because he may say that if the company is not doing well, should I actually consider this application favorably? These may be things on the back of the mind of the officer. He may not even tell you that. So be careful. Analyze yourself objectively is the most important thing. The other good thing for you to know is that The L1A follows the dual intent doctrine, which means that even if you tell the officer that you want to immigrate to the United States, he cannot stop you from getting the visa, which means that you can come and go, and if all your documents are in order, and if you're a good businessman, if you're a genuine businessman, and if your company is sending you to the United States to work as a manager, great news for you. Set up the company, get the ball rolling, and welcome to the United States on the L visa. Now, this is the L1A we were talking about. Now, I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to start talking now about the L1B visa, which is meant for people with specialized knowledge. And that's going to be very important. Stay tuned, and we'll be back after the small break.
For all your legal matters including immigration, bankruptcy and credit card problems, divorce and family law, landlord and tenant matters, criminal and personal injury, call Gahey & Associates for a free initial personal consultation at 718-263-5999.
जब कोई बात बिगड़ जाए, जब कोई मुश्किल आ जाए, तब हम आपका साथ देंगे. Anytime you have a complex immigration matter, remember, मैं हूं ना.
Hello folks, so we are back again, and now we are going to discuss about the L1B visa category. One important thing for our viewers to know is that the maximum time period that you can spend on an L1 visa in this country is 7 years, and you cannot go beyond the 7 years. So if you're already in the United States, see that you either plan your green cards, which means plan for permanent residence in the United States, or plan on going back to your country, because you may not be able to get any further extensions. Now, L1B applies to people who have specialized knowledge about the products and services of the company. Now, the easiest way for me to explain this is by means of an example. You're working in a foreign company right now that has a branch office in the United States. Now, you are the person who knows about the products and services of the company. For example, you're sitting back home in your country, and you're developing a very specialized software program for your company. And this software program needs extensive skills, and the skills that you have are special, unique, and extraordinary. Now remember the word, this is the Gahey's words. I call them the Gahey's words, not any other words. I call the words as special, unique, and extraordinary. You have special, unique, and extraordinary skills. And now your company wants you to come to the United States and make use of your special, unique, and extraordinary skills. The good news for you is that you can come to the United States and work for the company by utilizing your special, unique, and extraordinary skills, which means you are a person who has specialized knowledge about the company's products and services. Now, let's take an example about a programmer who works on different kinds of softwares. For example, you may have fantastic knowledge of C programming, you may be brilliant in Visual Basic, you may be brilliant in Java, you may be brilliant in ASP. Now, you're a special employee because you know all these programs, and at this point of time, you're developing a particular program for an American company, for example, right now in the UK. You're sitting over there, but your company is saying that, listen, it would be great if you could come to America and work for us, because you can also visit the client site and you can see what's going on over there, and that's what it is all about. Now you told them that you're ready to come, so the company starts processing what is known as an L1B specialized knowledge visa for you. Now, after you come in on an L1B, you started working for the company, you're very happy with them, your wife can come with you, and your children can also come in. The good news is that your wife will be on an L2, and your children will be on an L2 visa. So now they are on an L2 visa, they are working for you, you're very satisfied. Now there's one thing which you have to remember very carefully, especially when you come in on an L1B visa. You're a person with specialized knowledge. Now you will need a labor certification. Now again, remember, an L1A manager does not need a labor cert, but an L1B specialized knowledge employee needs a labor certification, which means you have to undergo the labor certification process. So now, which means that if you are coming to the United States, remember to start your green card process early, because unlike the L1A manager who doesn't have to undergo the rigorous labor certification process, you have to undergo it because you are an L1B specialized employee. And after you come in, you work for the company, and if the company wants to sponsor you for a green card, see that you deal with the right attorneys, especially because guidance in these cases can be the key factor. And if you're improperly guided, unfortunately, you may not be able to settle in the United States. So friends, both the categories may seem very similar, but they have their own differences, they have their own pluses, and they both have their own minuses. So if any further questions, you can review this video again and again. And also, I mean, you need to ensure the fact that I'm trying my best to educate my viewers about everything they need to know about the L visa category. Again, to reiterate, L visa applies to people who want to come in as an intra-company transferee. You came in on an intra-company transferee. Remember, either choose an L1A or an L1B depending on your qualifications and the nature of your job. Remember, if you're an L1A, the good news is that you can come to the United States to start a branch office, a subsidiary, or you can just come in as an L1A manager. Even if you're working in the United, if your company already has a branch office, you can come in as an L1A manager. Remember, it's not necessary for you to come in as a specialized employee with specialized skills, depending on the job which you're going to perform and your skills and experience. So this is the key factor. So if you have any further questions, this is Attorney Gehi and from Gehi and Associates, and we'll be back again with some more interesting news from the world of law. Keep watching this program brought to you by Gehi and Associates.
For all your legal matters including immigration, bankruptcy and credit card problems, divorce and family law, landlord and tenant matters, criminal and personal injury, call Gehi and Associates for a free initial personal consultation at 718-263-5999.
जब कोई बात बिगड़ जाए, जब कोई मुश्किल आ जाए, तब हम आपका साथ देंगे. Anytime you have a complex immigration matter, remember, मैं हूं ना.